Hello, this is Stacy Harding with Hourglass Consulting Group, and I am so honored to have with me Sam Royer, who is a mortgage professional and mortgage broker with Edge Home Finance, and so much more than that. And I can't wait for you to hear from him. But before we do, I want to tell you a little bit about Sam from my experience. I think Sam and I have known each other for a decade or so now, and I have been so fortunate to watch him and his passion and his career over that time. Probably the most important thing to know about Sam is that he is a Marine veteran, and he has a heart for people who serve this nation and our communities and first responders and our active and retired military. And I have just learned from Sam so much about what one person can do to make a difference in this world. I think at some point in our lives, as we get older and we age, we think we can't really make a difference anymore. And it really just isn't true. And you've often heard people say, well, one person can't make a difference. Well, I'm about to present to you a person who has done that. I have never seen a person in the professional world be so passionate about creating positive change for others. And there's nothing in this for Sam when we start talking about the kind of the mission he's been on for a number of years now, other than the benefit of others who have sacrificed so much for all of us. So, Sam, you've probably been called this in your life. I was thinking about you, and I bet that I'd like to call you Sam the Warrior Royer, because you are a warrior in such a positive way. So, Sam, I can't wait to hear all the things you've been doing for the past number of years as it relates to the Helper Act. And so I think you probably need to explain to folks what that is and what your mission has been. What's been some of the challenges and the successes? And then let's finish maybe at the end and talk about how people could help. So, Sam, great to be with you, buddy.
I'm like tearing up, man. I didn't think I'd do this
It's
on
all
your show.
true.
I thought of my dad, and you were a big part of this whole
Mm.
thing starting out years ago. And the fact that my dad passed away in 2017, and he was a pretty influential person in my life. And I remember you guys just picking me up. And, it's my dad. I still have the voicemail that he left, because there was a hurricane hitting Florida, and I was going to go help some of the police out. And he was really worried about me, and I just could hear it in his voice. And he told me to put weight in the back of my truck so I didn't blow away. And but he always just was proud of me, and the fact that I am a Marine veteran. Unfortunately, I left my service way too early, and that is a big, big piece of my heart that's lost. And I'll never forget General Mattis. I served under him when he was my regimental commander. He called a couple years ago because I reached out to him. I reached out. I wanted to see if he could come speak at our organization. And he called me and said, "Hey, Marine, Jim Mattis." And I'm like, "Who is Jim Mattis?" And then it hit me. And I was like, I stood up. I completely changed my whole, just, how would you say, demeanor. And, he sat there and it was 7 minutes. It was a great 7 minute conversation. And he said to me, "You know what, Marine, there's this new thing called Google." And I remember when I first met him 20 some years ago, went like this. And he said, "There's a new thing called Google. And I looked you up before I called you." And he said, "Listen, Marine, you don't need to have a uniform to continue to serve. You're doing a great job. Keep on, Corporal Royer." And it was just like I had tears flowing. It was very heartfelt. And the fact is that, our veterans, our military, we definitely lift them up. And I am all for it. Trust me, 1,000,000%. There is zero downfall to anything that the military can do. The problem I've always had is a community service. My dad was a teacher. My mom's a nurse. Most of my best friends are cops. And it was very, very much a struggle for me, Stacy, when I had police officers come in front of me that, needed money for down, didn't have the reserves, didn't make the income like many others can because they were just trying to buy a house. And, for a while, as you remember, I partnered with an organization that was national that was very good at marketing to these individuals. But there was no substance that really made change for them other than, maybe they got a little bit of a benefit by going through this organization. So I had a crazy idea that I actually pitched, weirdly enough, President Trump's private pilot on, because at the time, President Trump was President Trump, and politics aside, he was a president. I wanted to try and get in front of him. I had a way in. And the gentleman said to me, "Sam, go get me some people." And I had no clue what that meant. And what it meant was go get me legislation with congressmen and senators. So for the next couple of years, I started to walk down that road to try and make the same thing that I get as a veteran with a VA home loan the same for teachers, firefighters, police officers, EMTs, and paramedics. Now, I wear a flag on my sleeve all the time. The flag is always never retreat, so it's always kind of stars front, and people ask about that. But I do it because, again, I gave up my service way too early, and my legacy in life is not to be a millionaire, not to be a billionaire. It's to ultimately know that the men and women that serve in our community truly have people that are fighting for them and truly are trying to do the things that will make change to help them in their lives every day. Because every day they put something on, be it a vest, because a bulletproof vest, be it, a fire outfit that is absolutely claustrophobic and I could never do it. An EMT paramedic are putting their mouths on other people to save their lives. And a teacher, our greatest gift are our kids. And we send them off to schools where these individuals will literally teach our children more hours of the day than sometimes we can. Why wouldn't we honor them? Why wouldn't we be a positive force in their lives? So the Helper Act came about a couple of years ago. Helper stands for Homes for Every Local Protector, Educator, and Responder. We have massive support. Now we just got to get the politics out of the way and get it passed. So,
Sam, let me stop you there for a moment. So anybody that's watching this or listening can't help but stop and pause and say, thank you for your service, first of all. But think about the noble cause of trying to help those who serve us every day in the way you've just described. And they do it with massive sacrifice of their own personal lives. None of them are getting rich doing these things. They do it because of their heart for service and love for other people, as you do. So I would just want people to think about that as we continue our discussion of why this Helper Act is so important. And you might talk a little bit, Sam, about continue the story about what's happened thus far. Where does the Helper Act stand? And then maybe we'll talk a little more about how maybe others that might be interested.
So basically, the Helper Act, I am all about mortgage professionals, real estate agents, other people going out and generating more business for their industries. I love people that are successful, but they do success with dignity and just a pride in themselves, but not a showmanship, right? So what happens is the Helper Act right now, we love that people are joining on and helping out and going out and trying to advocate. The bill needs to pass, right? So we have work to do. If you're out there in the marketplace and you're like, hey, we got this program, that's not real. It's not a program yet. So right now, where the Helper Act stands, we have 108 congressional leaders. That means that we have basically 25% of the Congress on the House side. Or if you look at a bill passing, you need 218 members to join. So we have 108. So we're like halfway there, right, to get this bill passed in the House. Now, on the Senate side, we have 16 U.S. senators. There's 100 U.S. senators total. We have 16 that have joined on. And that's a pretty amazing thing, not only to have all those individuals that have said yes already, but even to have a bill in the House and the Senate going at the same time, it's pretty impactful. So at this point where the Helper Act sits, in Senate banking, we have the chairman of Senate banking on this bill, and he is very for this bill. But we need to get some Republican senators on board. For some reason, there is like this staunch, we don't want another government program. And what people don't understand, FHA already exists. This is not something where the federal government will ever get hurt because this is not taxpayer funded. This is not where we're going. If Stacy, if you and I went to the federal government and said we need $1 billion or $100 million to give grants to people, that's a whole different ballgame. I'm pretty conservative. That is something I would be like, whoa, why are we doing that, right? This is where FHA, all FHA does is insure mortgages so that if lenders ever have an issue with default, then they go to the FHA, right? Well, the FHA right now, their MMIF fund, it's called Mutual Mortgage Insurance Fund. It's 500% overfunded. The minimum reserve is 2. They're at like 10.6 or something, right? Now, we don't want to bring them something so that we suck money away from that. In fact, the Helper Act would add money to that much more quicker, let's just say quicker, I can't think of the big word, the big boy word, but much quicker, they would put money into that fund. And think about this, Stacey. If you were going to lend somebody money, would you want somebody like me that's in a commission based world? Or would you want somebody that gets a paycheck every 2 weeks consistently and most likely stays at their job for 20 or 30 years, right? So the Helper Act,
Right.
all it does, it takes the best parts of VA, 100% financing, no monthly mortgage insurance, right? And it takes it over and says, if somebody, a police officer, firefighter, teacher, an EMT, serves at least 4 of the last 5 years, they will get the opportunity to go to any FHA approved lender in the country. And instead of that FHA lender picking a 203B, which is a traditional FHA, it might be a 203Z. And all that does, it says they're not required to put money down and they won't have a monthly mortgage insurance. Now, that funding fee, which normally FHA charges 1.75 right now, it would be raised to possibly 3%. They don't have an exact yet, but let's use 3%. That money would go into that MMIF fund. So the kitty would raise, and if default happened, they could take from that kitty. So really, I did a comparison for a U.S. congressman in Arkansas. I compared the Helper Act to FHA to their down payment assistance in Arkansas. Helper Act by far was cheaper over FHA. And listen to this one. Their down payment assistance, that police officer, I'm going to use them as an example, their payment would be $344 more a month using a down payment assistance program where they didn't need money to get into the house. Whereas the Helper Act, if the seller would contribute, they would need about $1,000. So,
Huge difference. And, Sam, when you think about all the things that could get partisan support, how could this possibly not be something that anyone that is in a legislative role, whether it be at the federal level or state, couldn't get behind this? And so I don't know if there's anybody from trade associations around the country or the NBA going to watch this, but if they are, I hope that they can consider perhaps partnering with you to help move this along. Again, you're halfway there with the support in the House and a ways to go in the Senate, but it's very, very little could be argued about that this is not a worthy opportunity to help those people who service so selflessly. And I love that you explained that it's not another government program and handout. It literally will fund itself. And quite frankly, the default rates on those folks that service are very low to begin with. They're getting loans today, Sam. They're just paying more. And in some cases, they can't because they don't have the down payment. But they aren't. There's not some perception that a firefighter or a policeman or a teacher is a higher risk than somebody, as you described, that's a commissioned seller.
Let's talk politics.
So it makes sense.
Unfortunately, it's politics right now, and we have more Democrats on the bill than Republicans. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is a Democratic bill. We can't have them have a win." Republicans need wins. Like right now, you're talking. We have the Fraternal Order of Police, the International Association of Firefighters, the National Educators Association, the National, I think it's called the National Credit Union Association. We have over 300 national, statewide, local supporters of this bill. Mayors, we have massive amounts of mayors. Because if you think about it, mayors oversee 3 of the 4 categories, and it's not costing them anything. It's a benefit for them to recruit and retain. So, we've had U.S. senators, we've had U.S. congressmen and women that they have family members that are teachers, that are cops, and they don't join the bill because, again, kind of what we've talked about in the past, the political side of it, this is an American bill. I don't care what you are. If you don't know a cop, teacher, firefighter, an EMT in your family or friends, then I don't know where you're living, but you probably do, right? And this might not solve the world for everybody, right? And look, some people have asked us, why not nurses? Why not EMT workers? We crafted this bill based off the Good Neighbor Next Door program, which already exists. HUD already defines first responder and educator as we have it clearly defined in the Helper Act. Would we ever love it to expand? Of course, but you have to start somewhere. And you're starting here. There's a thing called a 5-year sunset. So after 5 years, Congress has to relook at this and say, do we want to keep it around or don't we? At that point, if somebody wants to expand on, I would love nurses. My mom's a nurse, an ER nurse, or was. She's retired now. But I have a million friends that are in healthcare. The same thing, 911 operators. I do not want to sit there with 8 screens in front of me for 12-hour shifts where I have to talk to people that are absolutely stressed out because their kids choking, somebody's dying, and you're on that end. And then you have to go home to your family. Well, they are truly first responders. We would love to include them. And in fact, they might be included. But again, we have to get it to the point. Chairman Brown is very, very surreal on, I think the right word, surreal on this coming to the committee. So in the Senate, we actually, as much as we only have 16, with the chairman of banking on board, it's a huge win for us. Now, Chairman McHenry on the House side and Congressman French Hill, who's kind of number 2 there, we really need them to get on board. And trust me, all my efforts, I own a home outside of Little Rock. He is a congressman there. We have reached out. I've met French Hill personally. His support would be absolutely huge. Chairman McHenry, as much as he's not rerunning for Congress, he is a chairman currently. There really should be zero reasons not to bring this to committee and let them pick. Because right now we actually have a tremendous amount of committee members in financial services on the bill. We just don't have the leadership. And that's unfortunately one person can control that narrative. So, these kind of things, this kind of advocacy is what we need. We're not sitting here, Stacey, trying to say, hey, call us for a mortgage. We're trying to say to our friends and family that are in this industry, let's go out and fight for these people. Because guess what? Stacey, if somebody comes in your home, who are you calling? If your house is burning down, who are you calling? And if you fall on the ground, somebody's coming to save your life. It's very simple. And our kids, my kids are now in their 20s, and it's like, I know so many teachers that have positively affected their lives. And it's one of those things that those individuals, especially in today's day and age, I would not want to be a teacher. You have a cell phone in your face. What do you mean you're teaching 1 + 1 = 2? That's not real. I'm going to tape it and I'm going to blast it all over social media because 1 + 1 = 3. So, but that's a whole different topic.
Well, Sam, I think people that are watching and listening are probably feeling as I am, that's so proud that you're doing this work, but you have been doing a lot of it on your own. And so how could people get involved? We'll put your contact information at the end of this, but I was just thinking about that, particularly in the mortgage industry, which is, we're talking about mortgage finance for first responders and others that serve our communities. How can folks get involved who've been so blessed by this industry to not only make a difference in the lives of those people we could serve, but feel like they're contributing back? Because again, you and I have spent a lot of years of our time in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
We've been blessed, and this is a way that is very honorable to give back. And typically it's probably going to be some time, maybe some financial contribution, but mostly getting behind, maybe making some outreach to those Congress leaders that you're describing. But describe just a little bit, if you had your wish come true, how would people start to help
I think the advocacy effort. So everybody knows somebody, right? I literally had a sheriff call a congressman and say, why aren't you on this bill? Well, the next day that congressman was on the bill. And that just happened to be because I knew, like, somebody knew somebody. We all live in small communities, and those communities start at the city, local level, and then these individuals grow. But over that time, they get to know people. So just reaching out and having a real conversation. Hey guys, this doesn't cost money. This really will help my industry. But most importantly, it's going to help the cops, teachers, firefighters, and EMTs. Somebody said it best. Marco Rubio, actually. Senator Rubio said it best. He said, I don't get to do a lot as a senator where I get to go to like local people and shake their hand and say, hey, I did something that positively affected you. Helper is one of those things. I actually, as a U.S. senator, overseeing all of Florida, can go to individuals and the firehouses and actually talk with the guys and be like, hey, I just got this bill done. So it should be something that's very positive. Financially, yes, it'd be great. I pay a lobbyist personally now. I do have help from Edge. I'm very thankful for Tom Ailes for jumping in and helping out. But it's expensive to do this kind of stuff. I travel a lot to places. I don't need money from anybody. But like the lobbying efforts, a lot of times you have to hold events and do things. And there are organizations that we have now requested, hey, will you jump in and help out? That's one thing we really stayed away from. But this is our last 12 months of really like pushing this because, it was in the 117th Congress, which was last Congress. Right now it's in the 118th Congress. we don't want it to go stale. So that's why this last 11 months, we're kind of like that horse just running to the end, and we're right around that last turn. So just reaching out to having open conversations, just talking. I will give you everything we have as far as data, contact people. And our group, this is the best part, Stacey. So I have a very small group. I'm a Marine, but I'm going to pick on the Navy SEALs right now. Everybody loves Navy SEALs. Why? Because they're small. Sorry about the dog. Small. They're mighty, right? They go in. They have a mission. They conquer. They get out. Right now, I have a team in Washington. They're small. And actually, it's run by a Navy guy, George. And we grew up together, went to high school together. His heart is truly in this. His lobbying firm is maybe 5 people. And we've gotten this built. He's gotten this built. And his team has gotten this built to a place where, trust me, other organizations are looking at them saying, like, how'd you do this? Well, you know what George does great? He has a lot of interns. And he uses those interns, and those interns just smile and dial, and they call these mayors and mayors and mayors and mayors. So it's really just reaching out to us. The financial aspect of it would be great if we had some big groups contributing. I've talked to some major lenders that say, look, I know you have lobbying money that you send to your lobbyists, but hey, can you shift a little bit and help us? Because this bill is going to expand. Think about it. Every mortgage banker, every mortgage broker gets to go out and give basically a VA loan to cops, teachers, firefighters, and EMTs. The profitability aspect of these government-backed loans are going to be great for organizations. Why wouldn't you get behind this? Now, that's not the core intent. My core intent is the people I love, my friends like Jay Marr, Lizette Deschamps, Evan Weaver, all those individuals that serve. That's who I want to serve. Because trust me, having a cop sit across from you, or even like, teachers. I just had a teacher, Stacy. This is a very good example. She was putting $60,000 down on a house. She had an 8.0 something credit score. She literally had zero debt other than, I think, like a $50 a month credit card. Like literally $50 a month. But her debt ratio was so high because of her income versus a $250,000 house in Florida that her ratio was like a 48-52. Weirdly enough, FHA, I didn't get an approval. It was like 46-48. FHA, I didn't get an approval. Weirdly, Fannie and Freddie took it. But this woman was stretching to get into her home. Now, she could have moved one county south and made more money. And you know what she said to me? So this is only 2 months ago. So we're talking like November, December. She said, Sam, I can't leave my kid. So she could have been selfish, moved to county south, made more money, and her debt ratios would have been a lot better. But she chose to do that. I just had a firefighter in Orlando area, great client. His dad had a cosign because he couldn't qualify debt ratio wise. The kid had no debt. Now he wasn't putting 60 grand down, but he had no debt. He couldn't qualify. And when I did that schematic for Congressman Hill in Arkansas, when I listed out the debt ratios of the individuals, even just helper versus traditional versus down payment assistance, it was all in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that was based on $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
You've described a national, you might call it a crisis of affordability. Anybody that's paying attention to the mortgage or real estate industry knows that there is a shortage of housing in the sense of the demand. The demand is massive of people who wish to own a home. I have children that are of an age where typically by their age, I had owned 1 or 2 homes, and they were struggling to even remotely try to qualify. So here's an opportunity to help those who serve us have more options for their livelihoods.
Can I say one more thing, Stacey, just to cut in? A lot of people are talking about the housing demand and the supply. The supply. Listen, it's like a railroad track. If you're fighting both of those things, the train is going to get to the destination. If you cross over and you start hitting each other, you're going to crash. If one track isn't right, the train's going to fall over, right? Well, in this situation, we've had some members say, well, there's a housing supply shortage. That's our big thing. Guess what? If people can't buy the houses, even if you thrust 10 million houses out there, so they go hand in hand. So let's fight it together. I'm all for both.
They do. They do. Sam, it's awesome what you're doing, and I know people that are watching this are going to be excited about the idea that this could come to fruition. And you've done most of the yeoman's work over the last couple of years or so. If someone wanted to see a draft of the bill, is that something that you could
Oh
make
yeah,
available to
the
them?
bill,
Great,
letters of support we've received. We just had so, and
great.
I talk a lot, Stacy. We just had
That's
a
all right.
senator in Idaho. He was on the bill last Congress. He's not on it this Congress. Political reasons, probably. But Stacy, we have the governor of
Yeah.
Idaho. We have every major organization in Idaho. We have I think we have 24 mayors in Idaho. This is where constituents, consumers need to call the office and say, hey, just curious, why is not this senator on the bill? Why is this congressman, why aren't you on the bill? Where you live is impactful. Call the local people and say, hey. So, yes, I will share anything anybody needs. They just reach out. We'll get it to them.
Well, awesome. Well, Sam, I appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on, and I know this has been dear to your heart, and I've been watching you for the last few years dedicate so much and personally sacrifice your time. And you certainly could be out there making a bigger living for yourself and doing more loans with the time you've spent doing this. So, but I think I can speak for the entire industry and say thank you. And now let's see if we can rally folks to get behind you, and maybe you're not the lone soldier out there trying to get these things done. So, any final comments you'd like to make before we break?
been a while, Stacy. Thanks for you've had my back from day one. So, and I really appreciate it. And
Well,
honestly, I go back to
you're
my dad
you're
again. When he passed, you were there, and you were. I still remember looking out at that ocean as I was standing in my office, and we had a long conversation, and I will never forget that till the day I die. So thank you for that.
well, brother. It's my honor to call you my friend and colleague, and I just am so proud of what you're doing. And I'm grateful to have this
Yeah,
time with you. So we'll close for now, but please, folks, reach out to Sam. If you want to reach out to me to have further conversation about my thoughts about it, I'm happy to do that as well. But thank you all, and let's go serve the world with great
yeah.
passion as
Thanks,
Sam is.
Stacy.
Thanks so much.